I'd like to thank the YIM for calling me thrice. The first one I attended was 2009. So I'll talk about it, but I'll just briefly start with my title, which is Mentorship from Guidance to Growth. And I liked what Manjari said, that you do your PhD, you do your MSCs, PhD, and you still are learning. So basically, it's growth only where you're learning again, correct? But you had a mentorship before, try to utilize it and then grow yourself. Because now you have the responsibility of carrying the other people. Now you become mentors. So that you have to do. And hard and smart work helps to network. So I guess we are all be listening about collaborations and all, and I think we really need to do. First, everybody needs to do some hard work so that you know that your foundation is right. Then you are smart enough to find your own community. Do that. And then you network with them. That is when you can become leaders. Okay, so I'll talk about my career path. And I did my MSc in genetics from University of Delhi, South Campus. And I was more a plant person right from the beginning. And I thought I'm going to pursue plants and go to field work like Manjari. And I think plants was everything to me. But that perception sort of changed when I started my PhD in CCMB. And I could not get my first, you generally have these selection charts. So you give your choices, and my first was the plant. They did not give me, and they gave me my third choice. And I said, okay, I'm leaving PhD. Okay, that was the first thing I did. So they said, but no, you don't worry. We'll try to, because I was a summer student also over there. They knew that they need me. So they said, then the next time we'll try to give you a plant project. And I'll not name people out here, but yes, I wanted to do plants. So I was very strict about it. Then what happened? It was again like there were 6 months that you have to wait for the next cycle to start. So they gave me a lab to sit in because I had nowhere to sit. So I started working on Drosophila melanogaster, and I generated some mutants, and I got involved in them. So after 6 months, they came back to me and they said, "Okay, you're going to get this plant project. So you are still interested?" I said, "No, I want to do Drosophila." I was like, "Okay." Anyway, luckily there was a Drosophila project, and the PI took me, and he's sitting here, Dr. Shashidhara. So after that, Drosophila was the bread and butter. In fact, my mother used to call me and say, "आप क्या कर रहे हो?" I was literally killing flies. तो मैं मक्खी ही मार रही हूँ. So अब कहाँ क्या करना है? मैंने कहा अमेरिका में जाके मक्खी मारना है. So I got a lab which was at Harvard Medical School, working with Notch biology, and in fact he was the person who really discovered the Notch gene, cloned it totally. I would say not discovered, but cloned it, and there I did a little bit of transition because I understood that Drosophila is something which definitely is a hard work. You need to know the fundamentals, you need to know the biology, the processes that are going, because they're very similar to the humans, correct? So that is why it's a very good model system, and you have today's life cycle the best to work on. But there I started working on metastatic pan metastatic cancer samples also, which were there accessible in his lab from other clinical sites, because there was this children's hospital and everything. So whatever I would like to say test my theories of the fly, I would like just go ahead and stain it for their proteins in the metastatic cancer. So that was my transition, you can say, from Brassica juntia to coming to the humans. Okay. Now, these slides, what I'm presenting, thanks to Shivli and team, they have given us some questions. So I'm just trying to put that in. If I miss something, please do let me know. And I'm sure they have not missed anything. So next was the career path. So I came in as a Ramalinga Swami fellow. There's still this scheme from DBT where you can come as a Ramalinga Swami fellow, and they give you 3 years good fellowship. At that time we had, I think, 75,000, and then after 3 years again they review, and then you can get another 2 years. So 5 years you're fixed with it. Within 5 years you have to look for your own job. 2019 I didn't get a job. and my was going to expire. So there were three of us in that particular time who did not get in that particular batch. We went to DBT and we said that, is there any provision that once you get in as a Ramalinga, you can retire as a Ramalinga? So they all were laughing about it, but they said, no, we can give you extension. So we got 3 years extension. But fortunately, the same year, I also got my job offer as assistant professor. And I don't know whether I was lucky or I just put in one application and I got that offer. And then now through the whole course, I am an associate professor over there. And this is at Translational Health Science Technology Institute. But I'll tell you, this story did not begin that I would like to join this institute. I had this thing that there is an institute which is THSTI. And this happened after, okay, I'll come to that in the next slide. But I just wanted to again remind you that this was my trajectory from Brassica juncea to flies and then a little bit of human studies. When I was a Ramalinga Swami Fellow, that is the 2013 to 19, I didn't have a lab of my own, you can say, because you do have a project, but the mandate of the institute that you're working in may or may not allow you to do what you have in Ramalinga project. And I had not thought about it when I was coming back. I wrote a totally different thing, which was on cancer biology. But I did some cancer biology at some side of it, but then started to understand the mandate, and they at that time needed a person who could run a biorepository. So on the left hand side that you see here is the biorepository that I spent like 5 years trying to establish it. Now I'm trying to sustain it. And in the meantime, there were these many different cohorts that were running at THSTI because it's a Translational Health Science Technology Institute, a very good, you can say, platform which has biologists, immunobiologists, virologists, and lots of network with all the hospitals. We have around 32 hospitals that we network with. And now THSTI is opening a medical research center, which is I think 15 or 20 bedded hospital. So we are slowly starting, and we will use that as a base for clinical trials in chip and CHIS studies. So you can look at the website. So this what I did. I invested all my time during the 2019 to you can say 2013 to 2019. Yeah, this time trying to understand cohorts, how the cohorts are being in the hospital, how can we process the samples so that those samples can be transported to a place in the biorepository and can be used for high throughput studies. Because what clinical people used to do is, okay, serum is there, you can take it. No, we don't want the serum. We need to have a process of making plasma. We need to filter it out so that you can go ahead with proteomics. You cannot keep the serum out for a long time because for metabolomics, it needs to go into -80. So those were the quality assurances and quality control SOPs that were building and implementing it at a district hospital where they didn't know what a centrifuge is. So we got the centrifuge, trained those people. So it was a lot of training I had to do, and it was like 8 to 10 hours sometimes I had to be there in the hospital to train them. So that was my initial time. And then as a faculty at THSTI, I got to know that I have to do something different, which has come out of this cohort, come out of the biorepository. And I'll tell you who urged me also to do it in the subsequent slides. And I started thinking about placental research. So this is something my son have designed. And at that time, we had designed it for Garbhini, so the placenta wasn't there. But in 2019, I took the same photograph and drew a placenta on it. And that is now the symbol of our lab. So now, Brassica juncea, coming from all this time, and I tried to find out that some tree that looks like placenta, and then definitely there is. That is a red root dragon tree, which looks exactly like the placenta. So I'm still working on trees, you can say, at least. So even the red sap that comes out is like blood in there. So this is my PhD journey, 2013 to 2005. Now, when you come back, I think I might have skipped a slide, but yeah, when you come back to India, you never think about it that, okay, money will be flowing, you have your grants, you come back with the Ramalinga, you have your own money, you'll be able to do things. But there are so many challenges that come up. But when you're doing your PhD, you just have a question, you have all the resources that are being given to you by the institute, by the PI. So I was quite lucky. In that way, I was also mentored by Dr. Lalji Singh, Dr. Shashi, and the guardian angel, Dr. Lokotia sir. Then I went to Boston, as I said, Spiros. So there also I was lucky enough. 2009, I got a mail when I was in Boston doing my postdoc. So that was 2006 I started. 2009, in between, I got this that you want to come back to India as an observer in the YIM. At that time, there was an observer also, like you have mentor, mentee, there was an observer. So I said, yeah, free tickets to India, who will not take it? So I came back here as an observer. And this was the first YIM. And at that time, there was no India Bioscience also, I remember. So how it happened was I have some photographs and I hope they come. So again, there's a problem with this. Yeah. So all these photos are coming together. Can we go back? Okay. So can we go back one more? Yeah, that's it. So we had the first YM, like what Shashi talked about, in Kerala. It was a nice resort away from the hustle of their labs because I was just an observer. So we went to that resort, and you can see he's Raghu. Now he's in CCMB. And these are all the people who came to the YM as PhDs, postdocs. And I came as an observer because I was not sure. And then that's Mohit and Shubhadeep. Mohit again is now running his own department in ICER, Calcutta. And then Shubhadeep is in CDFD. So there were many such, and this was the panel at that time. So you can see these were the people who really urged all those postdocs like you to come back to India and start their own labs. Yeah, definitely talking about the challenges and the solutions, giving funding opportunities, which I think you have all in these subsequent 4 days that you'll do. So here I was back to India in 2013 with one PA, Chirantan. Now he's in Belgium. He's doing his PhD. Shilpi was handed over to me from a collaborator because at that time Ramalingas could not take their own PhDs. Yeah, students. But you need students to start work. But I had a lab manager, so and I had a lab, but I had no equipment. So now started the, we can say, I think there's some marathon of sorts. As I think Manjari also pointed out that it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. So where do I have to point this to do that? Here, there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now Manjari wanted to do the birds, and I wanted to do the you can say flies, plants. Everything came in between. But when I started there, and when I came to the lab, I had a very great chance of meeting Dr. Bhan, not in India, but in Kenya, in Nairobi, in a meeting. That was Grand Challenges. So there, basically, I said I'm a, you can say geneticist, developmental geneticist, and I think you can do it, or I didn't do it. Okay. So Dr. Bhan, Dr. Shinjini, they were all there. And then at that time, we started this pregnancy cohort, and I said, okay, I'll invest my time in the Garbhini cohort, but and also open the biorepository, but I need some resource to start my own lab. And nobody is ready to give me cord blood. I really cried, you can say. So he said, why do you want to take what everybody else is doing? Placenta, nobody is touching it. They don't even know how to store the placenta for those. And in NIH, at that time, there was a human placental program that was coming up. So see, now you are in India, you're back, but you should not forget whatever is happening there. You will have to anyway compete with them. So we came to know about that in NIH at that time, human placental program was something which was coming up. So he told me, you start working on the placenta. And the other thing is, if I work on the placenta, I also need to have these technologies, as even Dr. Gokhale pointed out today, that you people in the best era, because you are in an interdisciplinary field, you know the technologies, you don't need bioinformaticians, you have your Pythons and R codes that you really need to learn. And you are learning because that is required. So we didn't have that privilege. So I went to IOB in Bangalore to learn clinical metabolomics, because I thought if I have a domain, I also need the best technology to work on it. So, in the meantime, when I went to IOB and did a month course in clinical metabolomics, I came back to THSTI and also started networking with people. I wanted to know who is working on the placenta, at least in India, because that would help me. What resources are there? What are the challenges? Why people are not working on the placenta so much? Is there a problem? Maybe I start my lab and shut down my lab. So that is where I met Dr. Renu Dhingra. She's a placental biologist, you can say, and also department at the Department of Anatomy. So I understood the organ first from her. And then the first grant I took was to organize a meeting, an invite only meeting through DBT, where we invited the placental biologists, you can say, from all over the world. So this was one thing that did in 2015. And this was named as Provocative Ideas on Human Placental Research. And where we had all the clinicians and the biologists, they were all there to for me to understand about the placenta. And it was attended by 9 international speakers, and all of them who are placental pathologists and placental biologists. Also, I invited the Indian counterparts like Dr. Sadhna Joshi, you see, and you see also Vandana Jain, Arpita, and we had Taruna Madan from NIRRH, and I hardly knew anybody. I didn't know anybody. It was all on email that I invited them, and I paid for their tickets and everything. So it was a paid meeting. They knew that very well. So they all came. And interestingly, this was also captured in the Week magazine. And you know, when I came to know about it, when I was making my slides yesterday night, I just typed in placental meeting. At that time, I really didn't even know, but they captured this over there. So it feels so good that at least something was happening. But I was having blinkered vision. I didn't know anything what is happening. I wanted to work on the placenta. I wanted to develop the biorepository. So I really didn't know this. But this is a surprise to me. And this is how they captured it. And David Weinberg, who was the NIH director who started the Human Placental Program, also came for this meeting. And if you just see the last sentence out here, in fact, inspired by the Human Placental Project, an independent meeting of scientists was held at THSTI at Faridabad in Haryana in December last year on provocative ideas. So this was the turning point for me. I learned, and we had a 5-day meeting, then there were 2 extra days. I also had a workshop where I wanted these people to make us understand how we should collect the placenta in a district hospital where the labor room is somewhere else, the feasibility is not there. So what can we do where the processes can be such that we don't have to have quality integrity also affected? So we did all this in those 7 days. So now we knew how to collect the placenta, and we have collected the placenta today in a way that you can also do metabolomics and proteomics on it apart from doing pathology. So found my field, which is placental exosomes, and also omics based markers I would like to go for. But interesting thing is, we also need to know that association with global maternal and child health groups is important. So I kept that alive because all these people had come. So I kept my linkage, you can say, alive. We never know when we get some markers where we have to be tested in an external cohort, or they get markers which has to be, because boundaries you cannot cross for the sample. So at least I kept that alive, and also was faculty in charge of the biorepository. So I'll just take some time here, and I think it skipped my other slides. Major thing is 2015 to 2026, my timeline. Started with the Garbhini and the biorepository. Tried to understand exosome biology, because everybody who was working on the placenta was working on the placenta when it is already delivered. So I understood from the meeting that was the problem. Pregnancy is the, you can say, diary of placenta is the diary of pregnancy. So we have to read it when it is still inside. We can't get it. If it is out, then you're not having those, it's just a snapshot. So that is where I sent one of my PAs to Australia, because Carlos Solomon had also come to the meeting, who is the placental exosome specialist in Australia, Queensland. I sent him there. We developed an exosome biology lab. So now we can isolate exosomes which are secreted from the placenta in mother's blood at any time point of pregnancy. So we can mirror the placenta by isolating these exosomes at any time point. So we don't really need the placenta now. So this was the new technology that we identified and we established it. Then clinical metabolomics, placental research, I got my first grant. Biomarker discovery and clinical trials is something that we are now progressing with. Got my first grant DBT, that was Ramalinga. Then my second grant, which was IYBA. Got my first student in 2019. And now I have 6 students. I have been invited to join an international consortia where they have placental specific markers and they would like to test them in India. So they now come to us so that we can test them here. So that was where, and now 44 publications and 3 PhD theses because I started late with my PhD students. So one of them is in Stanford working on placental organoids. And the second one has got a placement through the BRIC program that DBT secretary was talking. And third is yet to submit. She just submitted, she's waiting for her. And these were the different publications. No pain, no gain. I'm not going to be very easy on it. Everything really did not work out the way I had to. I had to write many mails to them. Some responded, some did not respond. But I didn't lose heart. I just kept my blinkered vision on that this has to be done. Uh, very briefly about touching about science, as I told you, placenta cornerstone of pregnancy, and we now are getting into all different types of topics. But the interesting thing which came out was the signaling molecules like PLAP, extracellular vesicles, which are saying which come out of the placenta, the red ones, and we know the technology how to isolate them and study their cargo. They could be markers for different pathologies. And what are the different pathologies now we are working on is preeclampsia. So I'm into maternal and child health from Brassica juncea, just to remind you. And intrauterine growth restriction, preterm labor, premature prom, that is rupture of membranes, and also working on stillbirth. And I think this is very slow. Now trying to use these exosomes as markers, and we have our own established platforms which helped us collaborate with people in virology also, because in dengue they wanted to do it just because we knew this technique in India. So Dr. Jyotsna Dhawan's lab, and we had somebody from ISC also coming down. So we have publications with them just on based on the technology. So you have to have your USB. That is the point. And the video doesn't work, or did it work and it's all over? Yeah. So these are the exosomes. The major thing was to identify the size of these exosomes, and this was a big challenge for me because we needed a nano tracking analysis. That was the starting. So when you isolate DNA, you need to know the mass spectrometry, or you need to know that what is the concentration. For exosomes, this is the bread and butter, and we didn't have this equipment. So I went to the director and I said, I want to start this and I want to have this equipment. First time it was not okay. Second time again, there's lists, these lists are made by the directors and all. Second time again went with the same thing. No. Third time I went again. So she said, okay, this time you have it. So you have to be adamant enough to yes that you want to do it. Yeah. Then also using Western blot, we proved that yeah, whatever technology, tube formation assay or the angiogenesis is affected, and this is in late onset preeclampsia. So now again, ours is a translational lab. We don't want biology. What are you going to do with it? So the second part, which we always keep alive in the lab, is biomarkers. So me coming from a Drosophila background, tried to understand the mechanism, and if these are biomarkers and they are in the causative, they could be very good tools for therapeutics. So how easily I can still be working on my basic biology, which I was, and the moment they said that this is not the mandate, I just pulled out these. I know exactly what the mechanism is, and if we can use antibodies against it to prove it. And interestingly, this protein X now it's going for patenting. That's why I'm not giving it a name, but it is being used in cancer where antibodies to this protein are being used for therapeutics. So that is why just changed my gear, used the same thing. I knew the technology, I knew that mechanism, and tried to with the biorepository that I had really spent a lot of time, I knew the samples are all there. I used those samples, tried to put it up that, okay, if this protein is doing all these things, then with the hypothesis that in the cases this protein should be less because there is migration which is affected, this is angiogenesis which is affected, so the placenta should not be made properly, and that is what happened over here. If you see here in the cases, the protein is less, and in the controls, the protein is more. So now we also went into machine learning. So I have people working from IITs in my lab now. Although I don't know how to do R, I don't know how to do Python, but I sit with them and now they understand what is preeclampsia. I don't know their codes yet. But anyway, they are very happy with it that they could do a bio statistics. I don't know what they call it anyway. But they are helping me out to make these different machine learning models. And what we do is that with the protein, without the protein, with the clinical factor, so we are getting to make integrated models because we had the good opportunity of having clinicians in the same institute. So we know exactly how they rule out a particular patient. Okay, if he has or she has BP, if she has proteinuria. So we are trying to add all those and integrate that into the same biological protein that we have identified and make models. Long story short, this is the way forward. We are going into clinical validation, that is the prevalence of late onset preeclampsia. And this is a I'll tell you a little bit about this. Late onset preeclampsia is high BP in pregnancy anytime after 34 weeks of pregnancy. And there is no diagnostic marker for it, and there is no therapeutic for it. The only therapeutic intervention that the clinicians do is take the baby out anytime after 34 weeks. What's the problem? Fine, baby is surviving, mother is surviving. But 34 weeks to 36 weeks is where the baby has the development of the lungs and the brain, the last. So that is where they are all preterm babies, and that is where we have under 5 mortality of these preterm babies. And that is why you need to know that if you could have some modalities to diagnose late onset preeclampsia early in pregnancy so that you can have a monitoring regime on them. You may give lung surfactants to such mothers so that the babies could start their lung development before. So these are scientific things. So now, point is why I understood all this, because we used to sit in FOXY meetings. These are the OBS and gynae meetings. Me being a biologist sitting over there trying to understand what is the unmet need. They will not be able to tell you. Try to listen to their lectures and try to fit your stuff into it. Okay, this is where they are lacking on things. Can we give them something here? Nobody's, see, they are very busy people. They have so many patients to care for that it's very difficult for them. So whatever, whenever you make your talks also, if you need to talk to a clinician, don't make a 10-minute talk, 1 minute or 2-minute talk.
Pallavi,
That's it. Yeah,
sorry,
I'll
to
cut my
give your
short.
time check
Yeah.
so that we can take a couple of questions.
Yeah, I think this is all. And now the interesting thing is, because these clinicians, we gain confidence, now they are giving us abortive placenta, although with all ethical approvals, and we have started making our own organoids. So I think we'll be the first lab in India making placental organoids. So that was my dream, that at least we should be able to make organoids. Now what we are going to do with it is a separate issue. And yes, as I told you, that international consortiums are now calling us to be on board to test their markers. So we are testing their stillbirth markers that they have identified in 25,000 mothers in 5 different cohorts. 2 in Bangladesh, 1 in Tanzania, Pemba and Pakistan. And they can't send their samples, we can't send their samples, but they are giving us the choice of letting us know their markers, putative markers, to test them here. So this is the trust we built in them. You have to have a team to do all that, and we learnt everything from each other. Community, not everybody likes everybody here, huh? Be very careful about it, but still you have to work as a team. Okay, I'm not going to take time, but I'll just point out the biorepository. Just 2 slides, that we are the first biorepository in India which has an international accreditation from NABL, and the first NABL biorepository and the first DBT biorepository to get this international accreditation. So basically with this, there are so many people who come down to us to get our SOPs, our QMS, and we had the largest biorepository in the South Asia, which is storing 1.8 million aliquots from more than 25,000 participants and more than 1 lakh unique samples. Now we are not only storing but also giving these samples out through a governance process, which I really had to spend time with the DBT to make them understand. And in fact, they were also very helpful to nominate domain experts into the committee. And now we have supported 19 industries, 59 academia requests, and we have got 36 publications and 15 PhD theses out of this biorepository. 4 of them are mine. Okay, I think you wanted to put some awards and honors. So these are the awards, and I was a very sports person. 6 o'clock, Shashi will see me in my shoes and I'm out. No more working. So I used to play badminton. That was my craze. And I did win the Shanti Swaroop Bhatnagar Memorial Tournament, not the award which is given. I just wanted to put it there. Okay, and then I was the outstanding award I won for the biobank from the Biobanking Foundation of India 2024, and also the contribution to institutional development. On the 15th foundation day I was honored with the same thing, that we have done something for the institute. So you need to see the gaps that are there in the institute. Don't just say they want me to work on the mandate. Good, na? Work on the mandate and then tell them, now you worked on your mandate. You have to check out where you can fit in. Yeah. And then after that, I also won an international award where I was the one of the 30 women who were for India Leadership Journey, which was a fully funded program by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This is my team, and yes, I had my first men ally. That is my son here, and my husband. That's my daughter. And as far as committees go, I think it's always good. There was no crèche, you can say, daycare. So I started the daycare and I started the committee also. So that was the point. You need to start your own committees if you have to do work. And then I got things from home, all the kid things, and there were 5 people more who started. So basically now, after that, the daycare closed because there was no one who would spend some time to keep it sustained. Now everybody comes to me and says, ma'am, wo file you have na, please can you give us so that we can restart the daycare. I said, okay, no worries. And yes, one shlok I will talk about. I don't know whether, yeah. Last one, Chanakya Niti. I'm a big fan of Chanakya Niti. If you need to get your work done, you have to way to do it. And only you can do that, yeah. So the shlok over here doesn't say that. That's my thinking. But the shlok says that none of the alphabets are not there in the mantra. Means all alphabet will be there in the mantra. All the plants that you have will be medicinal plants. We have not yet identified that they are, but they will be medicine plants. People who are all here, none of them is ayogya. Everybody has something in them. The only lacking thing that we have here is mentors who can pull the right people into the right place. So, everything in the world has value and potential. The limitation of our lies in our ability to identify that potential and apply it properly. So, I would tell you one thing, try to identify this potential within yourself first rather than blaming the other people ki wo nahi samajh raha. So, I am that way. So, that's it, I think.
Thank you.
My mentors, yes, all the mentors here.
Burning question. We both are partners in crime, if I may say. PhD from Queensland University, Exosome Lab, working on cancer biology, want to have my own lab in biomarkers. So I'm writing few grants and I've put quite a few on Exosome. So just want to say if I would love to collaborate with you because I want to have clinical based lab. I belong to a very small college, but hopefully I think I can start my platform from there. So would love to chat with you later.
Sure, definitely.
Thank you.
Most of my papers in the beginning came from collaborations. There's no harm.
Thank you, Dr. Pallavi. I have a comment and a question following this. The comment is on the similar lines. I do agree with this beautiful work where the immunological memory is guided very early on during the pregnancy, and my work is also aligned on the same field. So I would love to talk in the next session during the networking. And then on the question front, I was curious to know how the maternal and child care initiatives which are being led by your team are working towards under the One Health mission, because I know at PGI there is a very beautiful building coming up on maternal and child care, so it has very diverse clinical applications. So I would want to know something on that front.
Well,
Thank
I think
you.
I'll take your help to do that because we are thinking on those lines, but yet haven't interacted with people for One Health. So we do have samples. Maybe there's somebody who would like to do that.
Yeah, and the biorepository thing is like really wonderful.
Yeah, it
We
took a lot
we
of
have been
time.
trying to develop it.
Thank you so much for the excellent talk. So my question is about mitochondria. So in the exosomes, have you identified mitochondria being, because I work on artificial mitochondria is one of my project that I'm working on.
So we haven't identified anything in the mitochondria because we did a proteomics and a microRNA cargo search profiling. But for mitochondria, what we are doing in the sera of these mothers, we have found lot of fatty acid metabolism mutants, you can say, or intermediate metabolites that are dysregulated between the cases and the controls, which brings the mitochondria into picture.
So,
But we don't work with mitochondria. The assay that we do is the JT assay or just the seahorse. That's
Seahorse.
it.
so can you quickly comment on the future applications of the organoids? Are you working or looking for collaborations on like organ regeneration or that
Yeah,
kind of work?
I am trying to first look into these organoids because placenta, the major thing is the challenge is that nobody understands that if you give that much of nutrition, mother's blood is full of nutrition, but still the cord blood is not. So that means either the receptors are a problem. So that is why we're trying to use these organoids with some mutations also, whether these receptors, if you mutate them, whether they are able to take the nutrition. So I'm going to do some nutrition studies with the organoids to begin with.
Hi, ma'am. Thank you so much for the inspiring talk. Ma'am, I just wanted to know how did you navigate as a Ramalinga Swami fellow after coming back from US? Sorry, from outside the country. How did you navigate without the PhD students or any project assistance, and that too with the limited funding during that 5-year tenure?
Yeah, I used to get bone marrow from 2-month old to 14-year-old babies, and bone marrow is always collected right early in the morning, 7 o'clock. I used to go to the Ames, that was the point, and then I used to get this in metro and wait for people to finish their centrifuge run so that I could run my centrifuge to get PBMCs out. So this was the challenge: no pain, no gain.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Pallavi.